let's get right into it and talk about gravity. Just kind of to start with the basics. What is it basically? It's the fundamental physical force interacts between different masses over both long and short distances. It controls the orbits of the planets, and those are all things we've heard before. And anti-gravity is basically the science of modifying gravity. So anti-gravity is kind of a misnomer. It's really more gravity modification, but colloquially it's called anti-gravity.
The death of a young scientist who warned her life was in danger has resurfaced as the list of scientists with ties to America's space and nuclear secrets who have mysteriously died or disappeared grows to 11. As fears rise that the disturbing cases have an insidious connection, President Trump recently revealed his team is looking into the matter.
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half. I just left a meeting on that subject, so pretty serious stuff, but we're going to be hopefully, I don't know, coincidence, if you want it, whatever you want to call it, but some of them were very important people, and we're going to look at it over the next short term.
Anti-gravity researcher Catherine Eskridge allegedly died from a self-inflicted gunshot in June 2022 when she was just 34 years old, according to the Daily Mail. However, the researcher specializing in anti-gravity, which is a staple topic among UFO enthusiasts, mysteriously warned in a 2020 interview that her life might be in danger while discussing her research company, the Institute for Exotic Science.
I started the Institute for one reason. The Institute. I started it as a public-facing persona to disclose anti-gravity technology through, because I told Mark this: if you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off.
Eskridge also revealed that she had been receiving threats and that she had plans to disclose information about UFOs and extraterrestrials to the public. Her death was ruled a suicide, and neither the police nor the medical examiners have publicly released any details of an investigation into her death. Eskridge's death was unearthed after an already growing web of concerning deaths and disappearances of NASA scientists and individuals with ties to U.S. space and nuclear secrets. Eric Burleson of the House Oversight Committee told Fox News the fate of the scientists is too coincidental and almost certainly linked to the access they had to classified information, with the potential involvement of bad actors.
This is a rattling call to pay attention to this issue and make sure that our nation's top scientists are safe and secure. This is too coincidental, and so we have to be investigating this. We need to have our nation's top investigators, the FBI, and every agency looking into this matter.
Michael David Hicks, who worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Flint Ridge, California, as a research assistant, passed away at the age of 59 in July of 2023. However, there's no public cause of death or autopsy for Hicks' passing, nor any mention of how he died in his obituary, although it does ask for donations in his memory to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. 3 other scientists with ties to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, or JPL, have either gone missing or died over the past few years, even as recently as February. On February 16, 2026, renowned astrophysicist Carl Grillmeyer, who worked on NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, was suddenly and shockingly shot dead on the porch of his home in California. His shooter, Freddie Snyder, was arrested and is currently in jail. However, a clear motive has yet to be established. Another researcher at NASA's JPL, Frank Mywald, died in July 2024 at the age of 61. Like Hicks, there's little to no public information about how he died. JPL's former newly appointed director of its materials processing group, Monica Reza, mysteriously went missing in June of 2025 while hiking with friends in the Angeles National Forest in California and hasn't been seen since. Reza's research in materials science was funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Base in Ohio, which is long rumored to hold extraterrestrial debris tied to the famous 1947 Roswell crash. The Air Force Research Lab was headed up by retired Air Force General William McCaslin, who also has shockingly gone missing. McCaslin mysteriously vanished on February 27, 2026 from his Albuquerque, New Mexico home, along with a pair of hiking boots and a .38 caliber revolver. McCaslin was also the former research commander at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, which works closely on national security projects with Los Alamos National Laboratory, famous for developing nuclear weapons during the Manhattan Project. In June of 2025, 2 workers from Los Alamos, Anthony Chavez and Melissa Casillas, vanished from their homes in eerily similar circumstances. Chavez, age 79, was last seen leaving his New Mexico home on foot, leaving behind his car, wallet, phone, and keys. Casillas, age 54, was last seen on camera walking alone on a highway, also without her wallet, phone, or keys, after telling family members she would be working from home, Dateline reported. Other dead or missing scientists include Jason Thomas, who led the chemical biology team at Novartis and was found dead in a lake this past March. Famous MIT physicist Nuno Loureiro, who was shot and killed last December, and Stephen Garcia, who worked on security for a producer of non-nuclear components in American-made nukes and went missing in August of last year. As of now, no federal agency has publicly acknowledged any connection between the cases.
So I want to talk about anti-gravity research in sort of the early days. We start from the beginning. So this is a photo or a sketch from H2 World's The First Man on the Moon book. So one of the earliest anti-gravity machines that was kind of put forward was the Thomas Townsend Brown's generator, or Brown's gravitator. That was in the 1920s. He coined the term electrogravitics, which you hear sometimes in the literature these days. It's basically you have this thing. Some people call those simple anti-gravity lifters, but really those are just on an end as well. They don't float in a vacuum. And then of course Nikola Tesla did a lot of work in this field. He had what he called the space drive, and this is one of his sketches of a vehicle that he proposed putting his space drive into. And so he patented that, the patent number's there. He called it anti-electromagnetic propulsion, and he talked a lot about electropulsation, and he had what he called the dynamic theory of gravity, which was really more of an ether theory, where he talks about ether filling all of the space, and he talks about mass being really just little vortexes of the ether. And then he says that, as a particle decays, it's really just the ether kind of spinning down or not vortexing. The Research Institute for Advanced Study that later turned into Lockheed Skunk Works. In the 1940s, there was the Searle generator, and that was purported or claimed to be a combination of anti-gravity and free energy. It's kind of this like metallic, you've got like a magnetic ring and then an insulator ring and then like a copper on the outside, and there's these little, that's probably just ineffective friction. There was the Wallace machine in 1968. This one was patented. It's basically some spinning brass discs, and brass is 1/2 integer, nuclear spin. And so the idea of this is that you spin the metallic around, and it's supposed to align the nuclear spin. And then, he calls it the kinematic field. So he talks about the motion of metals, and he really gets into like the kinetic part of aligning. It's an interesting anecdote. So then in 1990, there was the Woodward effect. So Jim Woodward is known as sort of the father of the Mach effect. So sometimes you hear about the Mach effect in like popular literature. But so this is another reactionless thruster, kind of like the Dean drive was a reactionless drive. So meaning that you get thrust, but there's no propellant coming out the other end. So he said that this would enable basically a warp drive, where you have a large negative mass and then it warps space-time. And then what you have here is something called an Albuquerque plot. Yeah. And so this is supposed to be like a compression and an expansion of space-time that basically causes it to like travel in one direction.
So this part is kind of interesting. So in the 1990s, we actually had quite a bit of sort of anti-gravity research that was done here in Huntsville. And there was a UAH scientist named Ning Li, and she worked with a grad student named Doug Torr. This is Ning Li here, that's Doug Torr, and that's he was the chair of the physics department, that's Larry Smalley. And so she theorized that if you had a magnetic field on a superconductor, that it would align the ion spins and the ion matrix of the solid state ceramic, that it would align the ions and produce this gravito-magnetic, gravito-electric effect. And so Popular Mechanics did an article on her. NASA got involved and they did a collaboration in the late 90s. And then she actually left UAH and founded this company called AC Gravity LLC. And that was in 1999. And if you look for her company, it's still registered, but no one really knows what they're doing. And she got a $500,000 DOT contract in 2001, and then it kind of ended there, and we'll talk about that more in a second, maybe. Oh, okay, yeah, so what happened to Ning Li? So if you Google what happened to Ning Li, just Google that sentence. It's kind of like a weird internet legend that has originated out of Huntsville. This is a Reddit post under our conspiracy talking about, hey, what happened to Ning Li? Why did she get DARPA funding and then disappear? So that's just kind of an interesting internet legend that has come out of Huntsville.
She had 2 other graduates.
Yeah, I've talked to some of them. I've run into people even outside of Huntsville in the sort of weird science anti-gravity community, and when they hear I'm from Huntsville, they're like, oh my gosh, Ning Li, what happened to her? Tell me. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Now an 11th scientist with connections to top secret government secrets who has died or gone missing within the last 4 years under mysterious conditions. And conspiracy theories are ballooning online. President Trump even addressing the ongoing mystery yesterday, confirming the U.S. government is looking into it. National correspondent Nancy Liu is live in Los Angeles. So Nancy, what do we know about this possible 11th case?
Well, Nicole, just before her death in 2022, Amy Eskridge had announced plans to present her groundbreaking work with anti-gravity technology. The 34-year-old had been openly experimenting in the field and founded a research company called the Institute for Exotic Science to establish a more public space for developments in anti-gravity work. Her death from a supposed self-inflicted gunshot wound has long been questioned since she had expressed that her life was in danger at the time. Eskridge worked closely with her father. And according to NASA, Richard Eskridge is a retired engineer whose many projects included novel work on a system to propel a spacecraft with high-speed plasmoids. Well, I spoke with him briefly today, and he dismissed any link between the death of his daughter to the 10 other scientists who've mysteriously died or gone missing over the past few years. All had links to government secrets and programs tied to military defense and UFOs. Richard Eskridge, he did not want to be interviewed, but he told me on the phone, scientists die also, just like other people. Nicole?
All right. So Nancy, there are already questions before this newest one. We even have lawmakers weighing in. I mean, what more can you tell us about maybe what happens next?
Yeah, well, the mystery surrounding these scientists, it's definitely taken on a life of its own on the web, where all kinds of conspiracy theories abound. There's even talk of a murder conspiracy targeting people who supposedly know too much. 2 of the scientists' deaths are cases of murder, and a number of disappearances are people who weren't considered suicidal. In the case of Monica Reza, the experienced hiker went missing during a hike last year here in Southern California. She had worked with General William McCasland, a so-called UFO gatekeeper who also went missing just 2 months ago. Now, we just got a statement from Republican Congressman Eric Burleson, who's among those pushing for answers. He tells News Nation, these are some of the most advanced scientists and researchers in our nation working on critical national security efforts, and several have mysteriously disappeared. This is too coincidental, and we have to be investigating this. With President Trump now acknowledging the mystery with a vow of a top-level review, there is new hope due to his comments about answers in the next week or two. Nicole?
And let me tell you, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I know I've said that several times. We're the Rocket City. We're the biggest steal you've never heard of. Von Braun was here and we won the space race. We developed the Saturn V here. We built the Saturn V here. We won the space race here in Alabama, whether you've heard of it or not. And I can tell you for a fact, so many prototypes. Only prototype built like this in the world. You turn it on the first time, it works exactly like you thought it would the first time. Great data. You apply for more funding to test it more thoroughly, they cancel it. It goes to NASA divestment. It goes to the auction block. People bid on it. And literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it. We could be crazy far. We could be on the moons of Jupiter. We could be exploring Pluto that isn't even a planet anymore if we had spent money differently. I can tell you the names of so many NASA scientists that are depressed and they want to kill themselves because they have built prototype after prototype after prototype in Huntsville, Alabama. First in the world, never before seen, worked the first time you turned it on exactly like you thought. And it was canceled and melted down for scrap metal. We need partnerships well ahead of time, period. Like, you can't be calling these people to be like, can I disclose UFOs tomorrow? You have to be like in talks with these people. And so we need to pick, Mark and I have been talking about this already. We need to pick the most credible person we can possibly get who will publish it and talk about it on TV. I started the Institute for one reason. The Institute. I started it as a public-facing persona to disclose anti-gravity technology through, because I told Mark this. If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off. If you stick your neck out in private, fuck you. They will bury you. They will burn down your house while you're sleeping in your bed, and it won't even make the news.